Okay, let's look at this one right here. So, you got three terms. Square root of 27, square root of 40, square root of 108, and each of them have squares in them. You got to pull them out. So you got to reduce them, simplify them. So 27 is 9 times 3. 3 is prime. 9 is 3 times 3. Those are prime. So you're going to swap this out for negative 2. Square root of 3 times 3 times 3, and that is a square. So that is 3 squared. And this square root's going to undo that square. So this 3 comes out, and it multiplies by the negative 2, and this 3 stays in. So negative 2 squared root of 27 is the same thing as a negative 6 square roots of 3. So I'm going to park that over here. Negative 6 square roots of 3. Okay, now 40 is 4 times 10. 10 is 2 times 5. That's prime, that's prime. 4 is 2 times 2. That's prime, that's prime. So 3 square roots of 40 is the same as 3. 2 times 2 times 2 times 5. That's a square. So take a 2 out. So it's going to be 3 on the outside, and the 2 you bring out. Times them together. 3 times 2. And on the inside is a 2 times a 5. So I'm going to park this guy. Negative 6 squared is 3. And that's a plus. So we're going to go plus 6 square roots of 10. Okay, now 108, I gotta move over here. So square root of 108. If I divide by 4, I get 4 and 27. And 4 is a square. That's 2 times 2. 27 we just did. That was 9 times 3, and that's a square. So 108 is the same thing as 2, 2, 3, 3, 3. So there's a square. There's a square. I need to take a 2 out, a 3 out. So a 2 out, a 3 out, times them together. Whatever you take out, times together, and this 3 stays in. So I'm going to park it down here, and it was plus also. 2 times 3 is 6 square roots of 3. So here we go. I've got them all simplified. A negative 6 square roots of 3 is going to play with a positive 6 square roots of 3, and they will undo each other. That's a 0. So negative 6 square roots of 3 and a positive 6 square roots of 3, add them up, and that's nothing. So your answer is 6 square roots of 10. Next one. Let's look at this fraction right here. Okay, 3 and 2 are on the outside, so they play together, but they cannot be simplified. They got nothing in common. So the underneaths play together. 3 and 5, they got nothing in common, but my ends do. If I've got some ends on top and ends on bottom, 2 of these ends on bottom are going to undo 2 of the ends on top. So I'm going to take these 2 ends, and they're going to undo 2 ends up here. So really what I've got is just 1 end on top. So let me rewrite it. I got 3 square root 3 n. On bottom I've got square root, I got 2 I guess on the outside, 2 square root 5. Okay, now on the bottom you cannot ever have a radical. So you need to turn this square root 5 into square root 25. So let's times the bottom and the top by square root 5. And that's legal, because that's like timesing it by 1. So now the bottom, the 5 times the 5, there we go, we created 25. But you're still going to have on the outside 2. And on the top, this underneath plays with this underneath. So on my outside, I've got a 3 and I've got a 1. So the 3 times is the 1, and you've got 3. And the underneath times is the underneath, and you've got 15n. And square root of 25, that's a rational number. That's really a 5, so you got 2 times 5 on the bottom. So On top, you've got 3 square roots of 15n, and on the bottom, you've got a 2 times a 5. On the bottom, you got 10. And that is now legal, because my bottom is a rational number. Let's look at this one right here. Okay, the 5 and the 15, they play together, and 5/15, we need to change that. Let me go clear up here. 5/15, I'm going to change that to 1/3. Okay, now my square roots, they're going to play together. 4 and 12 is also 1/3. And then 3 of my x's on top are going to undo 3 of my x's on bottom, so I don't have any x's on top, and my bottom, instead of having 6 x's, 3 of them are gone, so I'm left over with 3. Okay, so here we go. Now my next move, I'm going to take some x's out of the bottom. Before you do anything, take some x's out of the bottom. So square root of 1 on top is just 1. So on top, all I've got is 1. So that cleaned up pretty nice. Okay, on the bottom, x cubed, because there's more than 2, I'm going to take some out. 3, that's x, and that is a square. And this square root is going to undo that square. So x comes out. So on the bottom, with my 3, I'm going to have an x, and then what's underneath is still a 3 and an x, and then on top we just got 1. Okay, now can't have a radical on the bottom, so I really need to scoot this over here. 1/3x times square root of 3x. Can't have a radical on the bottom, so times the bottom by square root 3x times the top by square root 3x, and on top you're going to have square root 3x, and on the bottom, on the outside you got 3x, and then 3x times 3x, that's going to be 9x squared. And that is a perfect square. So this square root is going to come off. On top, you're going to have 3x. On bottom, you're going to have 3x and the square root of 9. You're going to times these together. Get busy, Garrett. Square root of 9 is 3. Square root of x squared is x. So that means on the bottom, you're going to end up with 9x squared. Okay. Multiplication. Let's times these. Now, before you times, there's some squares in here. Take your squares out first, and then that's going to make things easier. 12 is a 4 times a 3. 3 is prime. 4 is 2 times 2. There's my square. And p, 3 is p. There's a square. So 2 comes out. P comes out. So on the outside, I'm going to have 2 times p. On the inside, what stayed in was a 3 and a p. Okay, and I'm going to multiply that by this. 3 is prime. There's no squares in 3, but p cubed, we just did p. You're going to take a p out. So times, if you take this p on the outside, on the inside, you're still going to have 3p. Okay. Now multiplication, multiply your coefficients times the 2p to p, and that will be 2p squared, and then times your insides together. 3p times 3p is 9p squared, and we're in business. 2p squared times square root of 9 is 3, and square root of p squared is p. So you're going to end up with 2 times 3, 6, and p squared times p to the 1 is p to the 2 plus 1. you should end up with 6p cubed. Next one is multiplication. In the parentheses, you got 2 1s, then you got 1 square root of 2. They're not like terms, so they cannot be added. So you need to multiply this to this. And 2 is on the outside, and 2 is on the outside, so times those. 2 times 2 is 4, times the square root of 2. Okay, then you gotta distribute to this guy. And coefficients, 2 times 1. So there's going to be a plus in between them. 2 times 1 is 2. Square root of 2 times square root of 2 is square root of 4. And square root of 4 is 2. So this is really 2 times 2, which is a rational number 4. And this is 4 square root of 2. There we go. Okay. Let's break it down. 360 is 36 times 10. 36 is a perfect square. There we go. 10, there's no squares in 10, just a 2 and a 5. So I'm going to take a 6 out. So the 2x times 6. And I'm going to leave the 10 in. Okay, now x7. That is x, 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 x. There are 3 squares. 1 square, 1 square, 1 square. So you're going to take 1x, 1x, 1x. You should take 3 squares out, and then that leftover stays in. So at the end of the day, 2 times the 6 is 12, and x cubed times x to the 1 is x to the 4. And you're left with 10x on the inside. Okay. So I'll pause and do a part 3 for the honors.